monoxide. And the principle of this diacetyl monoxide is the urea reacts with the DAM reagent. Diacetyl monoxide, in short way, it is called as DAM. The urea reacts, urea, where it is present, urea is present inside the sample. When we add the sample to the DAM reagent, then the urea present inside the sample will react with the DAM reagent in a hot acidic medium in the presence of thiosemicarbazide and ferric ions to forms a pink color, which is measured at 520 nanometers. And the normal value of this blood urea is 8 to 40 milligram per dl. Okay, and there is also another method to estimate the blood urea. The name of this method is Berthollet reaction, and the principle of this is urea will split into the ammonia and carbon dioxide, and ammonia reacts with the phenol in the presence of hypochlorite to form the indophenol. And this indophenol in the alkaline medium gives the blue color, which is measured at 546 nanometers. The same normal value here, but here what happens is the previous method, DAM method, is only a manual method, but whereas this Berthollet reaction, it can be applied in the automated analyzers also. So here I am showing you some parameters, so what we have to make the changes. So am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, very good, thank you. I'm showing you here the different types of parameters. What are the different types of changes we have to apply in the autoanalyzer to perform this blood urea test. So here the reaction we have to select it as a endpoint reaction, and wavelength you have to keep it as 546 nanometers, and the flow cell temperature should be around 25 degrees Celsius. And the incubation time means after mixing the sample with the reagent, we have to keep it for a certain time at 37 degrees centigrade temperature to make that sample react with the to make that sample react with the sorry to make that sample to react with the uh, reagents. Okay, and here the sample volume is 0.01 ml, and the reagent volume is 1 ml, and standard concentration is 20 milligram per dl. And inside this auto analyzer we have to keep the zero setting with the help of reagent blank. So these are the different types of settings we have to change inside the auto analyzer, and this Berthollet reaction can be performed as manually and also in the auto analyzer, and the normal value is 80 to 40 milligram per dl. Okay, and based on this, when we talk about this normal value, one second. Visible? Okay, then. Okay, so what is this? The host has spotlighted your video for everyone. Later, but something is visible here. Please move this window away. Yes, yes, it's okay right now. Again, somebody have opened some window which is not clear. Is it visible? The PowerPoint is visible? Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The blood urea recent slide is blood urea is showing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so in the previous slide, see in this slide, we have mentioned here the normal range. It is 80 to 40 milligram per dl. So when we talk about the normal range, if the values are very higher, above the normal range, then the disease conditions are classified into three types: pre-renal, renal, and post-renal. Something screen is not clear. For everyone, it is visible. Please move this window. What is that window? Oh, sure. Leave it. Oh, sure. Okay, so based on the values, higher values, based on the higher values, the condition is divided into three types. It is pre-renal, renal, and post-renal. Under pre-renal, we are having these conditions: myocardial infarction and hypovolemia due to burns and leakages, and excessive protein catabolism. Okay, so in these conditions, there are chances that the blood urea value may increase, and this is pre-renal. It is not related to the kidneys. And when we talk about the renal, the conditions are different. They are acute glomerulonephritis and chronic nephritis. In these conditions, the blood urea value will increase, and this is related to the kidneys. And in the post-renal, the reasons may be obstruction in the urinary tract or stone or tumor or enlarged prostate gland. Okay, these are the post-renal conditions, and sometimes you may urea level also lower than the normal. Actually, the urea to the liver and it is kidney. So based on this blood urea, we cannot properly assess the function of the kidney. Okay, so now let's move the second test, that is serum creatinine. For serum creatinine, just I want to show you some introduction related to this reaction, how the creatinine is synthesized in our body. So I think everybody know what is ATP. ATP means adenine triphosphate, which is a source of our energy source of inside our body. So inside the muscles, what happens is this ATP is converted into ADP whenever you are doing some work. At that time, with the help of this creatine phosphate, which is called as a backup source of our energy, and this creatine phosphate converts this ADP into ATP and forms creatinine, which is a waste product. And creatinine cannot be used by the cells, and it is excreted by the kidneys, and creatinine levels remain constant under normal function of the kidneys. If your kidneys are functioning normally, then the creatinine levels will be remain constant, and creatine in the blood creatine in the blood is measured to evaluate the function of kidneys, and creatine in the urine is measured as a screening test. In the blood, we will do this test in the blood. So it is to evaluate the function of kidneys. If you are doing the same creatinine, if you are measuring the urine creatinine levels, then that is called as a screening test. So for serum creatinine, we are using the method alkaline picrate, and the principle is creatinine reacts with the picric acid in the alkaline medium and forms a reddish yellow color, which is measured at 520 nanometers, and the normal value is 0.17 to 1.7 milligram per day. And the same method can be applied in the auto analyzers also with the following settings. The reaction, you have to select it as a 2-point kinetic, and wavelength you have to maintain at 510 nanometers, and flow cell temperature is 30 degrees Celsius, and number of readings, you have to take two readings. You have to take the first reading at 20 seconds and second reading at the 80 seconds, and the sample volume should be 0.05 ml, and the reagent volume is 1 ml, and standard concentration is 2 milligram per dl, and 0 you have to always set with the reagent blank. And the clinical significance, high values you can see in this condition like dehydration, kidney disease, and high protein intake, and heavy exercise and medication, and obstruction in the UT. And low values you can see of the creatinine in low muscle mass or pregnancy, and extreme weight loss. So urine creatinine, if you want to measure the creatinine value in the urine, this method is same, alkaline picrate, and principle is also same. Creatinine reacts with the picric acid in the alkaline medium and forms reddish yellow color, which is measured at 520, and normal range is here 1.5 to 3 grams per dl for 24 hours. Okay, so based on this value, we can say that the specimen we are going to collect here, it is 24 hours urine sample. And along with the serum creatinine reagents, we need some additional reagent here that is called as sulfosalicylic acid. With the help of this sulfosalicylic acid, we will mix the urine sample and we will remove the proteins, which will become an interference when we are measuring the creatinine through the calorimeter or spectrophotometer. So the sample what we are going to collect here, it is 24 hours urine, and calculation of 24 hours urine creatinine excretion. So here I am writing, given the formula urine creatinine, you have to measure it in the milligrams per dl, and how much amount of urine is excreted by the patient, that you have to measure, and that should be divided with the 100. And the normal range in the men is different and women is different, because this creatinine is totally depending on the muscle mass. So men will be having more muscle mass when compared with the women. So that's why we are having two different values. Men value is 14 to 26 milligram per kg, and women is 11 to 20 milligram per kg. And next move to the serum total proteins. And here the method we are using is Biret method. And proteins will react with the cupric ions in the alkaline medium and forms violet color, which is measured at 530 nanometers. That is the principle. And normal range is 6 to 8 grams per day. And the same method we can also apply in the autoanalyzers with the following change in the parameters. Reaction is endpoint you have to select, and wavelength is 540 nanometers, which is green filter, and flow cell temperature should be 25 degrees centigrade, and incubation time is 10 minutes at RT room temperature, and sample volume should be 0.01 ml, and reagent volume is 1 ml, and standard concentration is 6 gram per dl, and zero setting you have to do with the help of reagent blank. And clinical significance, when we talk about the high and low values above the normal range, we can see in the dehydration, hemoconcentration, and edema. And low values we can see in low albumin, malnutrition, and malabsorption, and nephritis. And now about the serum albumin. The serum albumin method is bromocresol green, BCG, and the principle is albumin binds with the BCG at 4.1 pH and forms a green color, and it is measured at 640 nanometers, and the normal range is 3.3 to 4.8 grams per dl. Okay, we are talking about albumin. Previously we are talking about total proteins, and now we are talking about albumin. Albumin is a part of total. Okay, so the normal value is 3.3 to 4.8 gram per dl, and the same method we can also apply in the autoanalyzers. So the reaction is endpoint, and wavelength is 640 nanometers, which is a red filter, and flow cell temperature is 30 degrees Celsius, and incubation time is 10 minutes here, and sample volume is 0.01 ml, and reagent is 1 ml. Standard concentration is 4 gram per dl, and zero setting you have to do with the blank. And clinical significance, high values you will find in the case of dehydration, and low values you will find in the case of malnutrition and malabsorption. I think everybody know what is dehydration and malnutrition and malabsorption, so I'm not going to explain them. Okay, and uncontrolled diabetes and kidney and liver diseases. In these conditions, we will find the low values. Okay, so next about the determination of globulins. So for serum globulins, there is no particular method. This is based on completely calculation. So here I am showing you the formula how we are going to calculate the serum globulins based on the values of total proteins and serum albumin. So serum globulins calculation is equal to total proteins in grams per dl minus albumin in grams per dl. So total proteins value, let's take the proteins total proteins value as 5 grams as an example, and albumin value as 3 grams. Then as per the formula, if you apply the value serum globulin equal to 5 grams per dl minus 3 grams per dl, then the result will be 2 grams per dl. Then it means the serum globulins are 2 grams. So like this, you have to calculate the serum globulins, uh, but there is no other method. There is no procedure. Okay, there are no separate reagents, or there is no other procedure to measure the globulins. It is just based on the formula. And one more thing, that is albumin globulin ratio. Albumin globulin ratio is completely based on the formula. It is not a test. Okay, so the formula is here: serum albumin per grams per dl divided by serum globulin grams per dl. So as in the previous slide, we have the values. Albumin value is 3 grams and globulin is 2 grams, and the ratio will be 2 1 2 and 2 1.5 3. So the ratio will be like this: 1.5 is to 1. Normal range is 1.2 is to 1 to 2.1. Okay, so now move to the next slide, that is serum electrolytes, which is very important. Okay, here the method is flame photometry. We will do this. We won't do this test in the calorimeter or spectrophotometer. We will perform this one in the flame photometer. And in the principle is a sample, when here we are not keeping the sample inside or in any type of cuvette. We will directly spray the sample into the flame with the help of a fine sprayer, and at the time the sample will get evaporated, and the salts which are present inside the sample will get dissociates and forms neutral ions, and they will emit some light, and that light will be detected by the detectors which are present in the flame photometer, and that light will be calculated, and the normal range of sodium is 133 to 148 milli equivalents per liter, and potassium is 3.8 to 5.6 milli equivalents. So these are the two electrolytes, sodium and potassium, we are performing on the flame photometry. Okay. So clinical significance, when we will talk about the sodium. Okay. So the sodium value is 133 to 148 milli equivalents. If the values are less than 133, then that condition is called as hyponatremia. And hypo means low, and natremia means the sodium is less. We can see these values in the diarrhea condition and vomiting and Addison disease. And hyper means high, and natremia means sodium. So sodium is high. So it is seen in the dehydration, diabetes insipidus, and enlarged prostate gland. And hypokalemia. Hypo means low, and K means potassium. So and emia means blood. So here we are talking about potassium. Less potassium values, that means less than 3.8. So less values are seen in the tubular damage and malnutrition, and hyper values, high potassium values are seen in the glomerular disease, anuria, and oliguria. So now the next test is blood gases. In the blood gases, we are measuring pressure of carbon dioxide and pressure of oxygen. So first, let's see about the PCO2. The sample what we are collecting here is arterial blood that is collected from the radial artery, and sometimes we will also collect the blood from brachial artery also, or else from the femoral artery. When this radial artery is not feasible, we will select that brachial and femoral artery as a second option. So here in the PCO2, I'm going to tell you how this machine is going to perform the test. Okay, so here the pH sensitive, this machine will contain some two types of electrodes. One is a pH sensitive glass electrode, and a reference electrode are present inside the bicarbonate buffer system. Two types of electrodes are present, and the pH sensitive electrode is separated from a plastic membrane. Okay, and through that plastic membrane, our sample will pass, and if our sample contains any CO2, that will diffuse through the membrane, and it will result in the pH change. Then, what is the change of pH between this sensitive glass electrode and reference electrode? It is calculated in the form of semi-logarithmic fashion. Okay, so this is how the blood gas analyzer will work, and how it will calculate the PCO2. And the normal value of PCO2 is 35 to 45 mm of Hg. And another blood gas we are measuring, that is PO2, and the same arterial blood we are collecting here from the radial artery. And if radial artery is not feasible, then we will go for the another option, that is the femoral artery and the brachial artery. And here pH sensitive platinum electrode is present, whereas in the PO2 there we will have a glass electrode, and the reference electrode will be same, and both are immersed in the phosphate and sodium chloride. We are using bicarbonate buffer. Here we are phosphate and sodium bicarbonate buffer system, and both these are separated from a test solution with a plastic membrane, same like in the PCO2. And here from the sample only oxygen can diffuse, no other dissolved ions can diffuse through that membrane. And when oxygen diffuses through the membrane, it results in the pH change, and the difference between the platinum electrode and reference electrode is calculated in the polarographic, whereas in the previous PCO2 it is semi-allogramethic method, and here it is the polarographic method. And the normal value of PCO2 is 95 to 100 milligrams mm of Hg, 100 mm of Hg. So now about urine and serum osmolarity. So first I will tell you what is osmolarity. Osmolarity is nothing but it is a measurement of free particles in the solution, and particles may be ions or unionized molecules. Unionized molecules means the molecules which are lipid soluble, and osmolarity is calculated in this way: molarity into number of particles. And osmometers works on a colligative property. Colligative property means number of particles, but not the nature of particles. What are the number of particles present inside the sample? It defines the osmolarity, but it is not whether it is a glucose or whether it is a sodium or whether it is a potassium or whether it doesn't depends upon the nature of the particle. It depends upon only the number of particles. So there are different types of osmometers, freezing point osmometer, and vapor pressure osmometer, and collide osmometer. So here I'm going to discuss with you about the freezing point osmometer and how it will work. So freezing point osmometer, this osmometer measures the osmotic pressure of the solution by freezing point depression. This what is this freezing point depression means? Adding a solute to the solvent decreases the freezing point of the solvent. So for example, water boiling temperature is 100 degrees Celsius, but when you add some alcohol to the water, automatically the freezing point, sorry, the freezing point of the water is 0 degrees centigrade. Automatically, when you add alcohol to the water, the freezing point of the water will decrease. So what is the main principle is, whenever you are adding some solute to the solvent, automatically the freezing point will decrease. So when the solute concentration increases, the solvent freezing point will decrease. So solute is nothing but here the number of particles. So when the substance starts to freeze, pressure between the molecules comes down, and when more molecules are present inside the sample, then more pressure will increase, and as a result, increase in the freezing point. So actually, normally the water should get freeze at 0 degrees Celsius, but when more molecules are present, then there will be more pressure. Then it will take more degrees temperature. So that means it will go for -1, -2, -3. Like this, the freezing point will be increased. Okay, and the normal value of the osmolarity is 50 to 1200 milliosmoles per kg. And creatinine clearance test. This is a very important test which is used everywhere to assess the function of the kidneys. And the sample we are collecting here, it is 24 hours urine, which we also use here thymol crystals to preserve the urine, 24 hours urine, to prevent the contamination or to prevent the uh, decomposing of the urine. So definition is for creatinine clearance test. For clearance means the definition is substance is cleared from the ml of plasma and excreted in the urine in 1 minute. How much amount of substance is cleared from ml of plasma and excreted? And it not only clearance, it should be also excreted from the urine, and that too in the 1 minute. The normal value will be 105 plus or minus 20 ml per minute, and that is in the males, and 95 plus or minus 20 ml in the minute. This creatinine, as I also told you, this is about the blood. It In the blood creatinine value, I already told you that it is related to the muscle mass. That's why we are having two values here. Males will have the high muscle mass. That's why the male normal values are higher than the female normal values. So calculation here, we are having the formula: clearance is equal to UV divided by SP into 1.735 A. So what is UV means? UV is equal to milligram per ml of urine creatinine. Okay, and this is the creatinine present inside the plasma or serum. And V means volume of urine excreted per minute. You have to calculate the 24 hours. You have to collect 24 hours urine sample, and you have to calculate it for 1 minute. And 1.73 is the standard average of the surface of normal individual, and area equal to surface area of the patient. So like this, you have to calculate the creatinine clearance test. And the last test is routine urine tests, which are performed inside the laboratory. So these are performed to assess the kidney function. The role of the kidneys is to maintain the homeostasis by controlling the chemical composition of the blood. The kidneys do this by removing the waste products from the blood and leaving the nutrients such as proteins and glucose in the blood, and also maintains the acid-base balance and regulates the water and electrolyte balance. Homeostasis means what are the important things. The kidney will keep the things inside the blood, and what are the waste products. The kidney will remove those waste products, and they will send out through the urine. So maintenance of these things is called as the homeostasis. And whenever our kidney is working properly, therefore if the kidneys are functioning properly and the person is good overall health, the urine will be normal. If urine shows abnormalities, this can be an indication for the problem with the kidneys. The following conditions can cause the kidney problem: congestive heart failure or injury to the glomerulus or tubules from drugs, heavy metals, and viral infections, or diabetes, hypertension, and in the kidney stones. In these conditions, the kidney may have some problem, and at that time, the urine will be abnormal. So the urine analysis, when we talk about the urine analysis, totally we are having three different types of components. One is the microscopic examination, or else it is also called as physical examination. That means we will test the urine with the help of our naked eye. Uh, and in the chemical analysis, we will use some reagents and we will test the urine. And in the microscopic examination, we will observe the urine under the microscope, and we will test whether what is present inside it. So when we talk about the microscopic examination and microscopic, first thing is color and clarity. Normal urine is always clear and shade of yellow ranging from straw to amber color. and abnormal urine can be colorless and dark yellow or orange, pink, red, green, depending upon the situation. Okay, the color of the urine will be changed. Normally, it will be shade of yellow, and it ranges from star to amber color. And clarity, normal urine should be clear, and abnormal urine can be hazy, cloudy, turbid based on the presence of lipids or based on the presence of proteins. The clarity of the urine will be changed. Okay, and chemical analysis. Under chemical analysis, we will check the pH, specific gravity, protein content, and glucose content and ketone content are tested. And nowadays in the laboratory, we are using a single step to test all these tests. And test for chemical analysis, pH. The test measures the urine in the acidic, whether it is in the urine acidic condition or basic condition. The normal range of the urine should be 4.6 to 8.0. Less than 4.6, it is treated as acidic condition. More than 8.0, it is treated as alkaline condition. Specific gravity, the test measures the concentration of the particles in the urine and evaluates the body water balance. Specific gravity. The more concentrated the urine, the higher the specific gravity. The most common increase in the urine specific gravity is the result of dehydration. Dehydration, whenever you are consuming less water, then automatically the urine will get concentrated and there will be a result that results in the increase of specific gravity. The normal range is between 1.002 to 1.028. And tests of chemical analysis. Under chemical analysis, two more tests are there: ketones and presence of proteins. This test measures the presence or absence of ketones, the endpoint of rapid or excessive fat breakdown in the urine. Whenever there is a high fat metabolism inside your body, automatically ketone bodies are formed, and normal urine does not contain any ketones. And when we talk about the proteins, normal urine level of proteins are very small, usually approximately 0 to 8 milligram per dl. Why very small? Because the proteins are very high in size and this cannot be filtered through the glomeruli of the kidney. So that's why the protein levels will be less inside the urine. If proteins are high, then definitely there is a problem with the kidney. And glucose, and one more test in the chemical analysis, that is glucose. This test measures the amount of sugar present inside the urine sample. Normal urine will not contain any glucose traces. And microscopic examination of urine. Microscopic examination of urine, we will collect the urine sample from the patient and we will keep it in a test tube and we will centrifuge it at a 3000 rpm degree temperature, 5000 rpm speed for 5 minutes. Then we will collect the sediment on a glass slide and we will check under the microscope for the red blood cells or white blood cells or epithelial cells or crystals or any bacteria is present. Okay, so red blood cells are not found in the normal urine, and white blood cells and bacteria are the signs of infection are also not found in the normal urine. If you found some white blood cells or bacteria, it indicates that there is some infection in the urinary tract. Normally they are not present. And epithelials are found in the urine as they are the cells that line the urinary tract. Epithelial cells are the common cells which are the lining of complete urinary tract, so you will find them obviously. And common crystals seen even in the healthy patients include calcium oxalate and triple phosphate crystals and amorphous phosphate crystals are the common types of crystals which are present inside the normal healthy urine also. And a large number of crystals or a certain type of crystals may mean kidney stones are present or there is a problem with the how the body is using the food. If the normally crystals are present, if they are present in a high amount, then it is treated as a disease condition. So this is the reference from these books. You can get the complete matter related to the renal function test. Proful B. Gotker Biomedical Laboratory Technology book, and U. Satyanarayana Biochemistry, and Manipal Manual of Biochemistry, and textbook of Biochemistry by Vasudevan. So thank you. So if any student wants to ask anything, you can talk with me directly, or else you can also text me so that I can read and I can clear your doubts.
Students, now you can ask your queries. Students, can you hear me? Those who have questions, you can chat in the chat box, so I will tell to the sir.
Please type in the chat box.
Um, okay, sir. So there is a question from Muskan. So the question is, as we all know, coronavirus basically disease of respiratory disease, mostly affects throat or lungs. So why renal function test is taken in corona patients? Why renal test is performed in corona patients?
Corona is not only related to the lungs.
Sir, not audible, sir.
I think my option is disabled.
Uh,
My option is disabled.
sir, you can unmute.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
So am
So am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right, listen.
See,
See, as we all of know that corona disease is a new disease. Okay, now the research is going on.
I know. I can hear my voice double.
Okay, am I audible? Yes, okay. Okay, listen. So now we cannot say why they are collecting, and this should be a particular procedure we have to follow during the corona disease, because it is a new disease and the procedure we are inventing day by day, different types of tests we are performing, and we know that it affects only lungs, as it is said that it is a respiratory disease. But we also want to know whether it is affecting any other parts of the body. See, if you find some coronavirus or the corona related particles inside the urine, it is indicating that it is moving through all over the body. Okay, just we want to know whether it is moving. Still, the research is going on. Okay, so not only now we are collecting the viral samples, nasal swabs, and blood samples also we are collecting, and we are still the research is going on. So now it is not clear that particularly we cannot say, and clearly we cannot confirm that why uh, the urine sample is collected to perform this type of test. Normal randomly they are doing all the tests to know where this coronavirus is moving inside our body. Next, any other?
Students, you can ask questions now. You can unmute yourself and you can ask questions. If you have any questions, you can ask now. So I think there are no more questions from student side, sir.
See, this renal function test is a very big topic. One second. Renal function test is a very big topic, which I cannot complete within 1 hour. So the time is very less here. And even I'm submitting my PPT to your faculty. If you want to know more, you can also read the PPT again, and you can clear your doubts. And it is a very huge topic. Okay, just we have
Sir, which are
discussed
the
just about.
proteins?
Yes,
Sir,
yes, yes,
which are the
yes.
proteins which used to be, as we take as a markers of renal disease?
The albumin and the globulin. Only those are the two proteins we are measuring inside the blood and in the urine. That's it. There are no other proteins we are measuring.
Okay.
And if there is any some cancer to the WBC cells, which will result in the formation of immunoglobulins are also treated as a protein. Then there are chances that there is a rise in the globulin protein. Okay, right now we are taking only the protein, so that are albumin and globulin as a markers to assess the kidney function.
Okay.
Okay, any other?
Sir, excuse
Yes,
me.
ma'am.
Yes, sir. Sir, in corona, if kidneys are affected, then AG ratio is increase or decrease?
Definitely. See, AG ratio. It depends. It depends. See, albumin globulin ratio. See, if there is any obstruction inside the kidney, if there is any obstruction inside the kidney, then there will be no release of albumin or protein into through the urine. Okay, but it will hide. If there is any formation of hole or leakage inside the kidney, then definitely the big particles will get leaked through the kidney glomerulus or tubules. Then definitely we will find those proteins inside the urine. When we find these proteins inside the urine, automatically there will be a decrease of these proteins inside the blood. If kidney is damaged, then definitely the proteins will get leaked, and when proteins are getting leaked, there will be a decrease of the decreased proteins inside the blood. If kidney is not damaged severely, if the filter glomerulus is not damaged, but the collecting duct or somewhere else if the damage is present, then the chances of finding protein inside the urine is less, and there will be no effect of albumin globulin ratio inside the blood.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other?
Sir, hypertension is also a cause for renal disease. How?
Sorry. Come again.
Sir, hypertension, is it related?
Hypertension.
Yes, sir.
See, that's why. The major thing we should know everything to keep our kidneys healthy. We should consume proper amount of water per day, as it is prescribed by the doctors that we have to consume at least 2 to 4 liters of water per day. When you consume more amount of water, the normal blood pressure will be maintained at a normal level. Then the chances of having hypertension is less. Hypertension is nothing but increased blood pressure. Why the blood pressure will increase? When there is a less volume of blood, then there are chances of increased blood pressure. So first, what we have to do is we have to maintain the proper blood volume inside our body. So for that, we have to consume normal amount of water, that is 2 to 3 liters per day. Okay, so when the volume is less, automatically the blood components will get concentrated, and it will affect the kidneys
Okay.
automatically. So when the blood volume is less, automatically each and whenever you collect the sample, automatically each and every value will increase. Whenever the value increases, it doesn't mean that the patient is suffering with some disease. Maybe he is under dehydration. So to prevent this, what we have to do is we have to maintain our health by taking we have to maintain our kidneys healthy by consuming at least 2 to 4 liters of water per day. Yes. Any other?
Yes, sir. One more question from second year class representative, Mr. Shahrukh. So his doubt is, can we able to diagnose any cancers by urine sample? Any cancer conditions by urine sample?
Yes, we can diagnose. See, normally, now, as I told you already, if the kidney is damaged severely, then only the proteins. Previously, one student asked me about whether there are, in the corona cases, whether there are any changes inside the proteins or not. If the kidney is damaged severely, then the proteins will get leaked. The proteins are nothing but globulins, and the globulins are nothing but immunoglobulins. Okay, so they will get leaked through the urine. Not every time we can diagnose the cancer with the help of urine. If there is any cancer related to the urinary tract, then we can find it. Not if cancer is present somewhere in the heart, or if cancer is present somewhere in the brain, we cannot find it through the urine. If there is anything related to the urinary tract, then we can find it, depending on the cells, urinary tract cells. And if any other.
Oh, thank you, sir. So there is one more question from second year, Mr. Eric. So his question is it possible to diagnose a patient with renal failure if the patient has heart failure?
Is it possible to diagnose a patient with the renal failure if the patient is a uh, is it possible to diagnose a patient with the renal failure? Means if the patient is already suffering with the heart failure,
Then whether he will have any renal failure or not?
definitely he will have, because the heart is the major organ which supplies the proper amount of blood to the kidney. Okay, like heart needs some blood supply, the kidneys also need some blood supply. Whenever there is a problem with the heart, it will affect all the organs inside our body. Heart is a major organ which will supply blood to every organ inside our body, and heart itself will also supply the blood. Okay, whenever there is a problem with the heart, definitely there will be a problem with the kidney. Next.
Any more questions, students? If I have, you can unmute and you can speak. Students, any more questions?
No.
Okay. So I think Srinivasa can take over the session.
Okay, thank you so much. Voice is audible? Okay.
Yes, sir. Srinivas sir, my
yes,
voice
sir.
is audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So it was a very nice session. So thank you very much, Praveen sir, for taking out your time and spending your time for our students especially. Once again, it is a great pleasure to have with us with you today. And I know that you are a good teacher, good mentor, and good motivator. So, like these sessions for our students, so for the continuous education in this crisis time is very much required, and we may call for further also. So, anytime, so you will be available with us. I know you are very much familiar with us. So, I think so. This session of renal function test, so a complete overview has been given by Praveen sir, but so because of lack of time, so some students, the first year students or second year students may not be understand why, because their topics are not covered yet in this renal function test. But final years, so they have completely understood with this overview. So which and all parameters, especially that urine parameters, he has explained blood parameters, how to assess completely the kidneys whether they are working or not. Okay? So like clearance test, concentration dilution test, some urinary parameters. So totally the blood itself. So when the heart is pumping, somebody has asked, some Erica, someone has asked. So heart when it is pumping the blood, okay, if proper blood pressure is not maintained, the kidneys also may not work properly. So it is totally correlated. So because of pressure point of view also, so the pressure is not there properly, so the filtration will not occur at the nephron. Okay. So filtration pressure, filtration fraction, so they are all needed for the separation of the components in the nephrons. Okay. So many components get filtered at the nephrons. If nephrons are itself is not working properly, then definitely so pressure is not there. So then on our concentration changes are there, blood parameters, automatically it affects the nephrons filtration. So finally, so these are all the parameters where we can assess whether the kidneys are working properly or not. Okay, so it's clearly mentioned by Praveen sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for taking your time, and it's been pleasure to have with us today. So the students also interacted well. It seems so many questions, so many doubts has arisen. It means
Yes,
you
sir.
have understood.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right?
I think the students are very much interested. Getting a lot of questions will give an impression that students are listening to the topic. But I
Yes,
can
yes.
surely say that the time is very less and I'm not able to clear it clearly. But still, I am submitting the PPT and notes to your faculty. If any student is having any doubt, you can contact the faculty and you can
Very
clear
good.
your doubts. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
thank
very
you,
much, sir.
thank you,
This
sir, for
PPT
inviting
also will
me
share.
to take this session. Yes, sir, I will share it. I will share it.
Okay. So Srinivas sir, over to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Praveen, sir, thank you so much, sir, to share your knowledge with us regarding a renal function test. And it was very wonderful session. I hope understood everyone. I would like to thank our Dean, sir, and HOD, sir, and faculty, students, and participants to make a successful webinar. Thank you so much. I think it is our time is going. So to end the session. Okay, thank you so much.
So, thank you very much, students. You can leave now. So the session.
Thank you very much, students, for your spending your valuable time again today. So for the continuous education from MLT department. So thank you one and all for your precious time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.